Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Vivek Ramaswamy absolutely destroys the arrogant, smug Jim Acosta when he accuses him of being Putin's puppet live on CNN. This is fantastic. Let's go.
And you've also suggested that Vladimir Putin be allowed to keep parts of Ukraine as part of a way to solve that conflict. What if he wants parts of Poland?
You leave
next?
out the most important part of that deal.
More of Ukraine next.
Aren't
you letting some of these authoritarian leaders off the
what
hook?
actually advances? Far from it. I think that the Biden administration is so stubbornly attached to the idea of getting Xi Jinping to drop Vladimir Putin. What I think we need to be doing is get Vladimir Putin to drop Xi Jinping. Just like Nixon went to China in 1972. I think Putin is like the new Mao. I will visit Moscow, and I will pull Russia out of its military alliance with China. The Russia-China military alliance is the single greatest military threat that we face today. Hypersonic missile capabilities, nuclear capabilities in Russia, far ahead of us or China. A naval capacity in China ahead of ours, combined with an economy that we depend on for our modern way of life. Those two nations are in a military alliance with one another, and nobody in either political party is talking about it. Worst of all, our engagement in Ukraine is further driving Russia into China's arms. So my foreign policy centers on weakening that alliance. That advances American interests.
But you would let Putin have
that
parts of Ukraine.
That is how we actually secure peace.
But you would let Putin have parts of Ukraine.
Freeze the current lines. I would freeze the current lines of control, and that would leave parts of the Donbas region with Russia. I would also further make a commitment that NATO will not admit Ukraine to NATO. But there are even greater wins that I will get for the United States in return. The top of the list. No, our goal should not be for Putin to lose. Our goal should be for America to win. That's what we have forgotten in this country, is that driving Russia into the ground is not a U.S. strategic goal. A U.S. strategic goal is to secure peace and prosperity for Americans. And so you know what? I do think many of those military resources being used to protect against an invasion across somebody else's border halfway around the world should be used to protect against the invasion across our own southern border right here at home. And in the meantime, yes, we need to pull Russia apart from China instead of driving Russia further into China's hands. And I think we have a foreign policy establishment in both parties, frankly, Republican Party and Democratic Party alike, that behaves as though we're still in the Cold War of the last century, forgetting that the USSR does not exist anymore and that the real threat we face today is communist China, which is that much stronger when Vladimir Putin is in Xi Jinping's camp.
There are three huge takeaways from this video. Number one is Jim Acosta I'm going to talk about body language. His body language is simply saying, with all his blinking, that he is receiving new information that's breaking his narrative, and it makes sense. But you can quite literally pinpoint the moment where his brain is trying to reset, and it happens constantly. Two, Vivek is right about foreign policy. He gets it right on Russia, and number three, he definitely gets it right on China. So let's start off with the Jim Acosta part. Actually, let's start off with Vivek, who is just a master at running circles around these people in the mainstream media. It's a masterclass here. He is pointed, he is purposeful, and he is making a beautiful argument. And furthermore, he's right. Jim Acosta is not used to this. The people that run these media institutions, the people in the mainstream media, have the same problem of the people in our federal government. That is, they have a certain narrative, and the moment you break that narrative, if the truth does not align with the narrative, they'll reject the truth. Y'all, times are rough. Record inflation is still not under control. We have a president who doesn't know what planet he's on, and the Federal Reserve continues to make dumb decision after dumb decision after dumb decision. You can gamble on Wall Street all you want, but if you want to diversify and protect your wealth, you need to look into my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. These amazing experts understand how to keep your wealth safe and protected from the volatility of our current market. And there's even a great deal for first-time accounts. Free gold and silver-backed IRA accounts, insurance on whatever precious metals you happen to buy for 5 years, up to $7,500 worth of silver, and a nice safe for you to keep all this good stuff in. So go take a look at their website, link in the description below, or call the phone number below so you can talk personally to Paul Stone, CEO, and his amazing team of experts to protect your wealth today. Jim Acosta is not really believing what Vivek has to say. You can see in his body language from his blinking, he's holding his face still, but the constant blinking is like, what do I do? What do I do? Because he has someone in an earpiece telling him, do something about this. But it also shows that he has a bit of actual integrity here. Because I can guarantee you there's a producer saying, cut him off, cut him off, cut him off. But he's sitting there going, no, I can't do that. Because I want this man to have his say. Because deep down, I actually do believe in the freedom of the press. So this is actually, I think, it sounds a little conspiratorial, I know, but trust me, that's how the process works. I actually believe that Jim Acosta is trying to deny his producers, who are trying to tell him to cut off Vivek here. That's one of the two reasons that he's blinking. Or it could be that Vivek is giving him new information and he has no idea how to process it. But more importantly is what is actually being said here. Vivek's goal of foreign policy is much better for the world and for the United States, to get the Russians out of the Chinese sphere. The Russians and the Chinese have a combined problem. That is, they are obsessed with trying to take as much power away from the West as they can. They do not want, for instance, Russia does not want NATO on its doorstep. But after committing what they've done, they've forced other nations to consider NATO as a real option. Finland took one look at this invasion of the Ukraine and said, nope, we are willing to risk it all to be a part of NATO. That is a huge gamble for them. Finland and Russia have long since been rivals. And they have disputed borders constantly for the past 200 years. And before World War II actually broke out, there was a war with the Russians and the Finns, to which the Russians eventually won, but they had lost at such a great cost. It's a similar problem going on in Ukraine. After all, you can always trust a Russian to be paranoid, because they have been a people that has been traumatized time and time again, sometimes by their own leaders. Just look at the Soviets. So y'all, you can always trust Russia to be a little bit paranoid. They are basically a gas station with a military. And what Putin wants is to control the near abroad and make the Soviet Union great again. That's something that the West does not want, because the Soviet Union kept on pushing borders. They were communist. They were destructive to the European peace, so to speak. Putin wants to gain that back. That is not a good thing. But what he is doing for the Russian people has been a major improvement over the disaster that was Boris Yeltsin. So at least there's that. However, compare that to the Chinese. The Chinese think that they are the best thing since sliced bread. They are an incredibly arrogant government and people. And they had a reason to be so arrogant. The world used to come to them for an economic foothold. The world trade used to go through China. It doesn't anymore. They have tried to reallocate their policy, but after the 100 years of, not 100 years of failure, but the 100 years of insult, so to speak, they experienced 100 years where the West basically controlled them from about 1800 until Mao in 1949. Xi Jinping's greatest goal is to reclaim Chinese glory. And thus, he is terrified of what the West can do with their military. But he also wants Taiwan for the same pride reason. That's why I'm desperately afraid that there is going to be a war in Taiwan. That's why Congress passed the CHIPS Act almost unanimously. I think everyone was on board with that act. Because the majority of processors that run our laptops, that run our computers, that run our phones, come from Taiwan. So I am deathly afraid that there's going to be another war and it's going to be China going after Taiwan. I do not want to get mixed up in that conflict. For lack of a better word, China is similarly paranoid. They think the West is going to cut off the Indonesian straits. They are afraid of losing their shipping lanes, and they're afraid for some reason of Taiwan. And thus, I think they're going to do something demonstrably stupid. Stupid as in, invading a nation for pretty much no reason, like Russia. So Vivek is outlining foreign policy that is better than anyone in our current State Departments today. Because our current State Department wants these conflicts. They want them so we can continue to sell out weapons. Our military-industrial complex is massive. And I grew up using to love Lockheed Martin. There was the old Bell bomber plant was just miles away from where I grew up. I grew up loving F-22s and F-35s. And now I've realized the truth of that industry. It's going to be interesting. But Vivek is out here breaking a narrative, forcing Jim Acosta to actually have some intellectual and journalistic integrity, and he's telling the truth about how our foreign policy should work rather than how it currently works. That's why I like this guy so much. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.